You don't want the truth because deep down in places you don't talk about at parties, you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
That's right, everyone. This is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best of New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. Always standing on that wall, always giving you the honest, unfiltered opinion of the New York Football Giants. The good, the bad. You take the good, you take the bad, and there you go, and there you have the New York Giants. You know what, guys? I do have to make an apology to that very small percentage. I think I offended yesterday with my Daniel Jones video. And I would like to say it right off the bat. I am sorry. I was wrong. The Teletubbies, that was a good show. Now let's get into talking about the Giants and the last day of the OTAs before next week. Also want to talk about, I do want to address something really quick. To the guy that's on Twitter, I think it was, I don't remember if it was Twitter, I remember it was the comment section, who said that there was no quarterback in NFL history who had a bad offensive line who succeeded in the NFL. And I rattled off, and he said, name some quarterbacks. I did. I said Peyton Manning in 2001, Brett Favre in 2005, Franz Harkington his entire time with the Giants, Dan Marino in 88, Michael Vick in 16, Archie Manning his entire career, Matthew Stafford his entire career until he went over till the Rams. Aaron Rodgers even had a bad year in 18 when he went 6-9-1, but he still threw for over 4,500 yards and 25 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Matt Ryan back in 18. You got also Dan Fouts for a good majority of his career in San Diego. Same with Phillip Rivers, but you need to look at 15 and 16. And then you can even go back a little old school and go with people like Sonny Jurgensen and even Norm Van Brocklin back in 58 and 59. You could even take a look, even going back into the 70s with Steve Bartkowski. And if you want to continue with Atlanta, you can look at Chris Miller. These are all guys that had excellent seasons on bad teams with bad offensive lines. And that's all I'm saying. But I think people need to understand their NFL history before they make comments. And I'm going to say before they make stupid comments, because that's what it was. It was a stupid comment. And I just had to address it. Then he tried to continue on, but you know what? You can't. My mom always said you can't fix stupidity. So you know what? We're going to talk about the Giants. So I want to talk about the tight end room because I'm a little bit excited about the tight ends, not about some of the bigger names. Everyone's talking about, one tight end in particular who we shall not name. But I want to talk about the other guys. I want to talk about the other guys on the roster that aren't getting the hype or starting to get a little bit of the hype. One of the guys I was really interested in because I keep hearing things about him in these OTAs is Andre Miller. 6'3", 220 pounds out of Maine. You're fighting an uphill battle. When you come from Maine, when you're playing from Maine, I think they're in the CAA conference. I don't even know. He was actually a graduate student. So from what all you hear about him, he's a really smart kid. And but he's an interesting prospect because he's been making for a name and stuff. He mainly played wide receiver over at Maine. I had to do a lot of research just to try to find some things. I even made a bunch of calls on people, and no one could really give you a lot of information about him. But he's a guy that, if you look at him statistically, he'd been playing since 18. In 18, he had 5 receptions for 109 yards with no touchdowns. And he actually progressed and grew into his role through the 4 years in college. In 2019, he had 28 receptions, 529. Then he had 21 in 2020, which, of course, was a COVID year for 348 and 6 touchdowns. And then last year, he had 39 receptions for 684 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had a longest catch of 55 yards. And his average yards a catch was 17.5, average 76 yards a game last year. But if you go through his career yards per catch, it's 18.4. I know he's been playing a little bit as a tight end. I don't know if his blocking skills are going to be up to par, but it's, what he reminds me, and I don't want to say anything bad about it, but it reminds me a little bit of Evan Ingram. He's a guy that if you take a look at him, he could be someone that could play more towards an H-back situation. He's someone that you can throw out onto the wing. He's someone you can keep up into the slot. If you take a look at the competition he played against, it wasn't that, we weren't looking at, he wasn't playing against Nebraska. He wasn't playing against Oklahoma. He was playing against like Sacred Heart. He was playing against teams like Richmond, the Richmond Spiders. I only remember Richmond Spiders because of the basketball team. So he wasn't, he was playing against people like Old Town. I mean, it's not like he was playing against these big teams. But like I said, he is a guy that he was a multiple sport guy. He played basketball and competed in indoor and outdoor field track in high school. So he didn't really play basketball in college though, but he did play in high school. I always like guys that are basketball players and former tight ends or tight ends that move into the tight end position, because I really think that certain basketball players, and there's been certain players in NFL history who were outstanding tight ends who came over and played basketball, came from playing basketball. It's just the nuances of playing tight end and catching the ball and rebounding are very similar. They really are. Because if you think about it, going up for a rebound is the same thing as catching a ball in traffic. And that's why I always like when there's a guy that comes over who was a former basketball player that moves into the tight end position. I think Andre is going to be a long shot to make the roster, which is fine. But I do think he is a guy that's worth a practice squad consideration, and I think that's going to be interesting. The other big name we keep hearing about, he said instead of old Jake, one of the other big names we keep hearing about is Austin Allen out of Nebraska. Austin Allen, he was a guy that I remember him at Nebraska, but I don't really remember him. He's one of those players that I think he stuck out more because of his height, which he's listed at 6'8", 252 pounds. And I laugh because I was thinking about this yesterday. Is he one of the tallest tight ends that ever played the game? I remember, what's his name? Leonard Pope. He was 6'8". I remember that. But then I had to go all the way back to Morris Stroud. And people are going to be like, they don't know who the hell Morris Stroud was. He was taken in the third round in 1969 with the Kansas City Chiefs. He was 6'10". And he was drafted out of Clark, Atlanta. But he had a 5-year career. He had 54 receptions, 977 yards, 18.1 yards attached, and 7 touchdowns. But like I said, I think I remembered Austin more because of his size and his wingspan. And I think that he is a guy that if you look at some of his film from Nebraska, he is going to be a guy that's going to be a blocking tight end. He was aligned in line on the offensive line 58% of the time in Nebraska. So he's used to playing. He's used to playing on the line. He played the big slot 34% of the time, and he went wide out 6% of the time. From what I see in scouting, some of the scouting reports are saying that he mostly ran seams and blends and curls, drags, spots, and quick outs, which is fine because he's a tight end. That's what I would expect him to do. I would expect him to do that, but I think he's going to be a good inline blocker. If you take a look at his frame, and it's difficult because we haven't gotten a really good look at him, but he looks like a guy, and I've talked about this before, sometimes as an NFL player, your frame fills out. As you get out of the pros and as you get into college, the same thing from going from college to high school to college. When I went out of high school, I was more about 185, 190. By the time I finished my college careers, I was at about 225, 230. So you fill out. And I think his frame, he has more opportunities to build a muscle and to build mass. And let's just say this, he's gonna be a big ass target going down the middle of the field. He really is. He is going to be a guy that you're going to look at and you're going to be like, well, that's how could Daniel Jones miss him? And I don't think he will, because like I said, you got a 6'9", you got a 6'8" frame rolling down the middle of the field. That's going to be a hard target to miss. Did I say Jake? I meant Daniel Bellinger. I'm thinking old Jake Ballard. I was a Jake Ballard fan. I just loved it because I remember one of Jake Ballard's first games on with the Giants. They played the Cowboys, and Troy Aikman kept calling him Hank. He kept calling him Hank. But you got, like I said, he's going to be competing against Daniel Bellinger, who's also a big kid at 6'6", 255 pounds. But I do find it I find him a very interesting prospect. That is, of course, whom I'm talking about is Austin Allen. I find I find Bellinger an interesting prospect as well. But I find Austin a very interesting prospect because, like I said, I think he's a big guy. I think he can grow into his frame. I think if you take a look at some of the film, he is a good blocker in space. He understands how to attack his angles. They basically said that he was a team leader in Nebraska, that he's a tough player. what I did like was the fact that, like I said, he's a good blocker in space, like I just said. And when you're on the line 61% of the time, that's what you're doing the majority of the time. And if you watch the way he plays, he drives to the defender, drives into the defender almost with an attacking motion, which really helps him push the pile. Now he could definitely improve because, like I said, he's not a fast guy. That's why I keep thinking of Jake Ballard, because Jake was a good tight end. He was able to find the seams, but he was a slow guy. This kid's a little slow. He ran a 4.9. You know, he's not going to be very agile. But again, if I have a guy that's going to be my blocking tight end who can flare out and catch a pass and not drop it and be either that second or third tight end option, I'm not going to complain. I was worried about the Giants' tight end position, but if you take a look at Daniel Bellinger, you take a look at Austin Allen, these are guys that, like I said, I think have the opportunity to make the roster and be on the roster. And I think that's what we need to look at. We need to build talent. We need to build talent. We need to cultivate talent. We need to have talent that we can stash away on the practice squad. And Austin Allen, Daniel Bellinger, these are guys that I think that we can do that with. Because everyone forgets, we still got Ricky Seals-Jones, and we still got Jordan Atkins. Or Akins. Why don't I come Atkins? Akins. It's been a rough day today. It's been a wrong day today. I've already been on the bike for a while, so came in this morning, I got to do a video. Oh, my goodness gracious. Great balls of fire. Now let's talk about the Giants in day 5 or 6 of the OTAs. This is going to be the last day for a little bit till after the Memorial Day weekend. And one of the biggest things that I keep seeing in all the papers is the fact that for the second day in a row, the Giants offense has avoided turning the ball over. Which is a good. I don't 100% believe that, because a lot of this, most of this is coming from the Giants in-house media. But you know what? It's a good situation. It's good that if you are playing with that aggressiveness and you are still maintaining control of the ball, that's always a wonderful thing. Evidently, Darnay Holmes is coming up big. He's coming up like 7-up. He seems to be a little bit of a forgotten man with the Giants in the secondary. They said that he has been playing well. He played especially well yesterday. He came close to picking off several passes yesterday. What you would like to see, though, is him to come down with those passes. But you know what? Knocking them down is just as good, because you know what? It makes you turn into another down. Other things to watch for, both Kenny, Kadarius, and Sterling all were assigned the red jersey today, which is fine. Like I said, I'm not getting overly pumped or overly excited. Again, they're saying the young tight end shined. You had Daniel Bellinger. Of course, he continues to display great hands with some catches from Davis Webbs. Joining him in the catch department, they're saying, is undrafted free agent Andre Miller and Austin Allen. So I was like, these are guys that are very intriguing prospects. Still, if you take a look at it, the Giants are probably going to go with the tight end room of Ricky Seals-Jones, Jordan Akins, and Bellinger. So we'll see. But, these two guys having a strong camp, they may not find their spot on the 53-man roster, but we're going to try to stash them away onto the practice squad. I did want to talk about briefly James Bradberry being upset about the way the Giants basically did him dirty and didn't allow him to get onto the free agent market, and they waited till the end. It's a business, and he even said it was a business, but you can't fault him for being upset, because he lost out on a multi-year contract because the Giants were trying to figure out what to do. So you can't blame the Giants for doing what they did, and you can't blame James Bradberry for being upset with what he did. So you gotta look at it that way. We're probably gonna have we're gonna do a video tonight with OGR Sports doing our 312-in-1 podcast, which will be up on tonight. We'll do it tonight, so it'll be up on Thursday. You'll be able to watch it every place that you can find podcasts, and you'll also be able to. I'll also post it on the online Big Blue site, of course, here. And you know what, guys, you just wait and see what happens. Just relax. The season hasn't started yet. Enjoy watching this, guys, because as soon as it becomes official and we start getting into the season, things are going to change. And again, this is Tim with the Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk entertainment. And as always, if you like, if you subscribe, you're going to pay down the means. That'd be awesome.